after President Jammeh's departure, instead of the United States Agency for International Development improving our hospitals, they didn't. Improving our schools, they didn't. Building factories in the Gambia to employ people, they didn't. All right? Name me one major building in the Gambia that was built by the United States, or one factory in the Gambia, or one institution in the Gambia that's been built by the United States since the USAID was formed. That's none. There's no institution in the Gambia, major one, that's employing Gambian citizens, that's taking Gambia from where it was to something better, that was initiated independently by itself by the American government. You name them. Show me one building in the Gambia, major building that was constructed. Even their embassy in the Gambia, they didn't build. The United States is renting. So USAID, when I was little, I saw NGOs that were in the Gambia 40 years ago. 40 years later, these NGOs had only one task. That one task is to provide safe and reliable drinking water for one village. 40 years later, these NGOs are still in the Gambia, and we're still struggling to have clean and reliable drinking water in the Gambia. So what are these agencies doing in there? The United States Agency for International Development was one of the arms of the secret services that they were using to infiltrate regimes that they don't want. The regime changed, the civil war. We saw a lot of publications. In fact, the Department for Government Efficiency, which is now being headed by Elon Musk, is exposing every single thing about USAID. And the reason Donald Trump shut them completely, when Donald Trump was removed from power in 2021, these are the media houses that constantly went on Donald Trump, joined the vindictive forces to try and get Donald Trump jailed. And they are on the list now. There's a long list of US media houses that were getting payments from United States Agency for International Development. And they were running negative press on Donald Trump on a regular basis because they wanted Donald Trump locked up. They didn't want him to have another opportunity to run for office again. They wanted the man destroyed completely. And remember what I said? They used their media houses to caricature people. Yeah? To vilify people, to turn good people into monsters before they go in and take them out. Exactly the same thing they did to President Jammeh in the Gambia. And now, Gambian media houses and Gambia government said, for the fourth or fifth time attempting to prosecute President Jammeh. First and foremost, they wanted to go via the TRRC, that failed. They wanted to use Senegal under Macky Sall, that failed. They wanted to use Ghana under Nana Addo, that failed. Now, they wanted to go via ECOWAS, which had none of those provisions in its charter to set up special tribunals for their countries. So ECOWAS said, we cannot set up a tribunal for your countries because it's not part of our charter. So therefore, you've set up your own special tribunal, and ECOWAS will probably back you in setting it up. So the government of Adama Barrow was hoping that the United States Agency for International Development, or the UNDP, or some other agencies will give them $150 million to be able to prosecute President Jammeh at a special tribunal, which is in direct violation of the 1997 Constitution of the Republic of the Gambia. Because the 1997 Constitution has set out our legal system in the Gambia, the law courts in the Gambia, Supreme Court, Appeals Court, then you have the High Court, then you have the magistrate, you have the Qadi, you have the other legal systems in the Gambia. For you to institute a special tribunal to investigate or prosecute President Jammeh, one needed to amend the 1997 Constitution of the Gambia before any such act can take place and recognize the special tribunal. Also, if you're going to rely on the TRRC, Truth, Reconciliation and Reparation Commission, which is called TRRC, you needed to make sure the provisions of the Constitution do not bar the TRRC from recommending prosecution of an ex-head of state and a serving head of state. Right now, the 1997 Constitution of the Gambia bars the TRRC or any other commission from investigating an ex-head of state in the Gambia and a serving head of state. So therefore, you cannot rely on the TRRC reports to prosecute President Jammeh. But because they have power, they don't care about the provisions of the 1997 Constitution of the Gambia. They were going ahead to prosecute President Jammeh anyway, knowing fully well that they have no right to do so, and it's a violation of the Constitution. So the money they were expecting would be coming from the USAID, and now the USAID has closed. They said, oh my God, we have a problem now. We can't prosecute President Jammeh anymore. We can't run this special tribunal. Meanwhile, Gambian citizens, soldiers, security forces went and sat at the TRRC and said, we killed XYZ. We killed XYZ. Those Gambian security forces are still walking freely on Gambian soil. It'll cost next to nothing to prosecute them because they sat at TRRC and confessed that they killed XYZ. Why didn't the government of the Gambia prosecuting those people? That's the question we need to ask. This is nothing but a witch hunt against President Jammeh, but in direct violation of the 1997 Constitution of the Gambia. They know that, but because they're in power right now, they can do whatever they want and they'll get away with it. This is where we are. So the United States Agency for International Development was involved, allegedly, via many publications, in changing regimes that didn't bow down to the Europeans and the Americans. If they wanted to come and get your uranium under $2 per kilo of uranium, and you said no, they overthrow you or they assassinated you. If you're not borrowing loans from them, they overthrow you or assassinate you. Most of these agencies have been doing that to Africa for a very long time. 22 to 25 African heads of state fell or were removed from power because they refused to bow down to Western powers. And that's what the United States agency, its collapse now, has dashed any hope that the government of the Gambia had of prosecuting President Jammeh at their illegal so-called special tribunal, which violates the Gambian constitution. And the special tribunal, which laws are they going to use to prosecute President Jammeh? Because if they're using Gambian laws, they have got absolutely no right to use any Gambian laws because the constitution of the Gambia is supreme. It says no commission should be set to investigate an ex-head of state and a serving head of state for the acts or omissions when they were in office. So why are you trying to violate the constitution before everybody? But because these people wanted to get to President Jammeh at all costs for 3 reasons. President Jammeh said he's not going to give them Gambian oil at 5% royalty, 5% return. The oil belongs to Gambia. The sea belongs to Gambia.
Really, sometimes he confused himself in the topic.
Yeah. So,
Lamin,
yeah.
Lamin, can I come in?
Yeah, come in.
I wanted to say something here because I want us to divorce what's called the Yajames trial from USAID and quickly deal with USAID and get out of the way. As you rightly said, United States Agency for International Development is an independent agency of the United States government that is primarily responsible for administering civilian foreign aid and development assistance. So basically, we have to know the purpose of USAID. USAID is for international development. Its principle is it's a U.S. agency to extend assistance to countries recovering from disaster, trying to escape from poverty, engage in democratic reforms, and other things, just as you have said. But the motive behind all those things, you rightly mentioned, they don't only give aid for sake of giving aid. They are doing it because they want something. Since its establishment, for example, let's look at where you mentioned Congo Brazzaville, who killed Lumumba. Is the FBI assisted by the people of Congo to eliminate Patrick Lumumba? What happened in Ghana? Kwame Nkrumah, the same thing. So any aid organization coming from the West is not there to overthrow our government, but there are motive behind it. Because if someone is feeding you every day, the person has control over you. So in the case what happened recently, it has become a slap on the face of African and African leaders, especially those who depend highly on the USAID aid, USAID for aid. Let's scale it down to the Gambia, for example.
Right. So what's happening in the Gambia now? You go ahead for it. Sorry.
Yeah. What's happening in the Gambia? There is what they call MCC. I think it's Millennium, something to do with Millennium Corporation and something. I can't remember exactly what it means. But they have something to do with agreed with the government of the Gambia, and that is helping them to fund. It's called Millennium Challenge Corporation. The Millennium Challenge Corporation, that the United Nations, US and the Gambia government agreed. And I think they are given an amount of about $24 million. But that is given to the Gambia government to support their economy and also to support the sanitation and rural electrification. So having an abrupt stoppage or to kind of like freeze that aid to Gambia is not going to affect Adama Barrow alone or the government alone. It's going to affect the Gambian people, especially those in the rural areas and so on. So USAID giving us a gap, like an advance warning, then probably African countries will be able to, especially those of us depending on the USAID, to prepare and see how we will be able to fill in that gap that they've been filling for us. How we are going to take care of that, because they will leave a very big gap on our budget. However, on the other side of the coin, which is very significant, and that is what we as opposition want to highlight to the people, is do we have to depend on USAID? Do we have to depend on foreign aid? Do we have to depend entirely on, if not 50% of our budget coming from aid or loans? No. And the answer is simple, no. Because some of these things that we are trying to do, they should have been a story. They should have been something that has been completed in 5 years ago when Barrow came, because of the amount of money he has received from foreign aid. We shouldn't be talking about rural electrification today. We should be talking about something. We shouldn't be talking about spending or depending 50% or 70%, 60% of our budget depending on foreign aid or on loans. This is what we need to show to the Gambian people to understand, that the government that they have there are collecting their tax, and whatever they spend from their tax goes directly into their pocket. Let's take an example on what each minister is receiving. You understand? For example, a minister like one minister is receiving $50,000 as basic salaries. Lamin, you know that. And they are receiving $45,000 as responsibilities allowance. Another $45,000 is for another allowance, that is living allowances. Even though you are living in your own compound that you own, they are paying them $45,000. So 45 plus 45, that's 90, plus 50, that's how much? 140. You paying a minister $15,000 for a maid, to maintain a maid. And each minister has got two transport, one for his personal use and the other one for his family utilities, right? And plus we have a security police officer to follow them everywhere they go, even if they are going to the toilet, which is maintained by the taxpayers. So if you look at all that, if we are able to cut down all those, we should be able to fill in the place that USAID are living. But not that. We kind of like depending on you, because Lamin, like you rightly said, especially USAID, they don't come to the Gambia just because they want to give us money. They will bring in their citizens. Some of those projects are headed and run by their citizens, and they are paid from that aid money that they give us. So kind of like some percentage goes back to them. The other thing is, they will put requests to our government that they cannot refuse.
Yeah.
USA wanted to get a 200 meters, is it 200 meters by 200 meters or 100 meters by 100 meters land from Monkey Park?
It's 1 kilometer by 1 kilometer.
Exactly, you remember.
Yeah.
1 kilometer by 1 kilometer to build an embassy, just an embassy on a plot of 1 kilometers by 1 kilometers. The Gambia government could not refuse it. They are prepared to give it to them. In fact, at where we need it. Why can't they take them to Bullock? Why can they take them to Arancon and give them 1 kilometer to build there so that development will go there? No. Yeah. What is wrong for them to have their embassy in Fonyi or in Kiang or in Badibu? Why do they want the monkey? Because that place is open to the Atlantic, direct to the Atlantic. Whatever wants to come in can come in. Do we know that today their flight can land on water, go underneath and come into the embassy? We don't know. So these are all things. America is trying to come out with something to control the whole world. Even if you look at what Donald Trump is saying today, we're talking about tariff, increasing tariff. That is not only Africa. That is global. He's touching everybody. Look at what he's doing to South Africa just because of USAID. So now as Africans, as Gambians, we must start, even though we are small, we should be able to cut our coat according to our size. We don't need a SUV, $3.5 million to run from Serekunda to Banjul to office, park it after 2 o'clock, jump into it and go. Later you use it on something. $3.5 million. Dollars is for what? Why can't you get a car which is like less than 1 million or 500, a second-hand car, and start using that because you're just going to office and come back? We cut on that so that those monies that are spent, on those luxurious, flamboyant lifestyle can be used to open a tomato factory in the Gambia, just like it has been in Burkina Faso. Our highest product is groundnut, and in groundnut you can have oil, groundnut oil. In peanut groundnut you can have what's called dege. How do you call it? Smooth.
Peanut butter paste.
Peanut butter paste. You can have a crunchy one, you can have a smooth one, which we can export to the sub-region. If the packaging is good and it reaches international standard. If not, we can still sell it and stop the importation of groundnut paste from other countries to our country. We can get it and sell it in our local market. You can also have sheep feed from it, rakal. You can get it from ground. So there are a lot of things and in that we should be able to employ a lot of people. But what do? They change the name of Gambia Groundnut Corporation from GPMB to Gambia Groundnut Corporation to a National Food Security, whatever. Who is heading that? The son of the person who brought up Adama Barrow, the late Alhaji Mamadou Musanjai, son is heading that, who is very, very, very close to President Adama Barrow. So why? This is why we are crying, because USAID are gone. The other problem, I want to look at this bank which has been bought by the farmers. You are able to take out 600 million and give it to a loan to your own cause. How to call it? Nephew. So two very close people to Adama Barrow have already been given $1 billion loan from our money. And this is the money we want to continue there for another 5 years. So USAID, yes, it's a slap on the face. Yes, they have caught us unawares. But I think it's a time for Africans, especially Gambians, to learn to live independently, self-sufficient in whatever we are doing. This is what Yahya Jammeh was calling. And the dream is achievable. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. So that's the picture I was building. I was going to get there eventually, but this is where we are now, because they were depending on USAID to run even something that the government could have run free of charge. And you're looking for another $150 million just because you're telling people that you want to prosecute President Jammeh. All right? But you've already told people you've accrued $1.2 billion from President Jammeh's assets. Where's that $1.2 billion is gone? But One Africa Mission, welcome to the program. If you can unmute yourself and then give us a
particularly min tata USAID kamako romin di Africa la
Yeah.
ka foñing a lota wato min na meta la nin bitem bari min bije wolom e ka demaro di Africa abukan Gambia dama Africa belom bari nyantam fanyinin kala muna tinna e ka kuke because yenyi mol jele min ka demaro di dalila le kamma so ni nga tranga a telo down to Gambia America meta le ka demaro di Gambia USAID ngajel kabrin tolbe karamoto hani tulol ni fonko tulol mi yalon ko ka jele USAID money bottle everything ebe volunteer sol sambala nang ibitan na kaw karana ibe na kulolo na ibe na adolo na kol kale bita ifana ibuka ke kense ka fenne soto jeto jaje but as we go ika mansakunda mi makoy mansakunda mimbe sirin sa en tol se diam wala na fanko ika makoy jele because ika kodo mindi ika dundi fanko banko la défense wala kono ika fami budget ni wo botaje ini Gambia Millennium Challenge Cooperation Challenge ini wol fana agreement kele ko sangu sang ika million muang anin nani ko wala dina masakunda bari woman wo pour budget support long anin transitional justice support anin also pour ka kuramo ka janjandi bankoka bari wo kurangol ka bi nyanta kala thing of the past mo nyanta nyina la wala because wo nyanta kala kabri bari minat na manke mbinala woto ko te afunu nyame ni yaje ñunu wati ikanan tolla banko kan ika demaro di ika ke fenne kam dalila koyle biji ni ma ke ñin kam andu America kudo fele security wise Gambia be lori ñami America it's a very strategic position because we are directly to the US so ñin na tina hani komantu yela kafanyari NASA inata ila station ke Gambia ila security also is there because ntolbe lo ñami ning atra Russia or any other banko mi sembo so wole intol control o be kele to le big security threat leti so ite la fala wala wol be mu kulati mi yalon ko ibenna banko kan so andu ni mo wata ba fale hin aba fale su lamin hin na meta na mi fo be wala kala because be mirana minna na ko nyin kay make aka min dilan aba stop la amma me ba ke ngamoy ko America no li lafta ka dulale soto Gambia 1 kilometer by 1 kilometer mi ko ba sannale andu ni asanda aka muta ko itoleta nte sembo soto la kote and wo ya londi dame anyabe tilindi Atlantic Ocean le fembe dunna la embassy kono tolta lon fembe bol embassy to akata tol tolta wolon because it only be la security kalaji nte katala jento tuslon so mu fenni mi yalo ko niaje na man sakunda ko ha ya lon ne ko kamin soto it ni ko hani and wonyanta stop la o manyana kala because o security threat la tolu because it's until use no le adulali ka moltoje waranka keloke according kora yes USAID ila nyin kunto amanke ko abe adama barole affect la adama barobe damin kurang buka manki kini buka manki ji buka manki til buka na lafta mi wona wala kasol because ntolle ka wojo namu kamin jon tolle ka wojo bari kodo min kanana pour ka dun kata banku dingol kam pour sena faso abuka futa je fan anyanta futa la nyami so ni wato dinna non sem fanda da o betiata because mi ngomin nata nan o man trakantol so we as an opposition tolka dami je wolam banko ni nyanta ka fanne soto nyanta kam fanno kam fan samba ni tata ya jube e ko kodo min di banko la adama barona la mansa kundala itol ko wala ta ke fon la balunya nyinyande itol dantangol jama bala balunya be kole arim banko kan misali fe ning ayatara ko minister killing iko wuli tannani ani lulu ko wala di la pour responsibility allowance wuli tannani ani lulu e murta ko ke wuli tannani ani lulu di la pour ila living allowance ko be tarla dami hanna tare siri la cordal fam e do sin mata ne wuli tannani ka funyo kan o wuli tan konon dole ikete fongo jomine la basic salary wotata kanya wuli tallu ni o botaje ko ke wuli tan ani lulu yo bondi ko ke ya di pour ila mbindano iba jola men wokola moto fulale be tarlebul ite fongo be min borindela ani la dimbal family be min tala pour ni lafta kata la o mona kananje poliso ye wole daya londi to kunna ni te kata dawda hani kata kamoto wole ke gado poliso jumalle kajo ntol nam kanel kany min befo namol min ka namojo wole kajo di silam namantu fenna fo aliko alinga moto di mo kilina mi yalon ka moto ni ya sang aka muta ko million saba anin talante ka bo lamen kata ila dokudla yebo ila dokudla ko teke yina lamen andu ka fuelo min tay ka free coupon le dila pour karo mume ila karo mume buka essence andu moto fana na tinyata ite buka dada free maintenance la woti sila what is the difference between the minister and the teacher? What is the difference between the minister and the woman working in the garden? What is the difference between the minister and that woman who is selling on the highway? We must have to look at ourselves. Absolutely. We must have to understand this is not Western problem. This is our own problem as Gambians.
Yeah.
So, Lamin Bidanajang, before we go to the next one, Abaraka Baki.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much. We're on YouTube and TikTok live simultaneously. Welcome to the program, everybody. One Africa Mission. What do you think about the closure of USAID before we go to the Gambian school dropouts? Basically, to give you a context, girls' education was free and compulsory under APRC government, under President Jammeh. Our girls went to school without worrying about school fees. Our girls went to school without having the option not to go to school. And because of that, the socioeconomic status of our Gambian women improved a lot. And with that, the nation improved as well significantly. All right? So One Africa Mission, you can unmute and come into the program, please. Thank you.
Thank you, my kin brother. Greetings to everybody. And I'm very happy and humble to be here with you, my kin brother. You're doing an amazing job for our continent and Gambia as a whole.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for the great job you're doing. Yes, this topic, just as the previous my kin was saying, he pointed it out very brilliantly. USAID, what are their purpose in Africa? If they claim
guys, mute, please. Let me mute his mic. Go on, one Africa.
Thank you. So they have been in Africa for that long. For how long, we don't even know. And whatever they claim they came to help us to get out of, we're still in there. Poverty. Poverty is still kicking us left, right, and center. Clean water, they claim they wanted to help us get clean water. We still doesn't have clean water to drink. And yet, year in, year out, they keep telling us how much billions they are pouring in our so-called poor countries. And yet those billions have not been able to provide us anything. So in a nutshell, it should tell us that they are not out there for our interest. Just as you rightly pointed it out, they are out there as spies as to who is working, which African leader is working for their interest, or which African leader is working for the interest of Africa. So as long as you are not there to work for their interest, and you try to work for the interest of your country, then they will kick you out. So they are nothing. They are nothing but spies. So if today, for me, in my opinion, as an African, if they say they are going out, they are closing down. For me, it's a blessing in disguise for us as children of Africa. And just as the previous panelist was saying, it is very important for us as children of Africa to realize that the destiny of Africa is not in anybody's hands, but in the hands of we, the children of Africa. If we want a better Africa, we shouldn't be expecting America or China or anybody to come and do it for us. We must hold our leaders.
Hold on, One Africa Mission. Jatu, mute all, please, for now. Jatu, can you go on mute, please? Jatu, can you go on mute, please?
Sorry. Mangi mute sade.
I don't know what happened. Nyong la dega nak.
Ay. Namu ko mute sa mungi mute.
Okay, that's good. Carry on, One Africa Mission.
Thank you, my brother. So yes, I think the only solution to our challenges, because normally I don't like calling them problems. The only solution to our challenges is holding our leaders accountable. All
Yeah.
this, all this thing that we are third world country, we are poor countries and stuff like that. It is because we are not accountable to our stewardship.
Yeah.
Yeah, we allowed our leader, just as you were pointing out, in
Yeah.
Gambia, why should ministers be earning this kind of amount of money whilst the people that they're supposed to save cannot even have a clean drinking water? Like,
Yeah.
how is that possible? Sometimes I wonder, like, when these our leaders, so-called leaders, they are nothing but misleaders. Sometimes I wonder when they go out there soliciting for aid and funds to come and give us clean water, and 20, 30 years down the line, we still doesn't have clean water, or like how they think,
Yeah.
you know. And I'm talking about your former president. I had this Gambian friend of mine, and when the elections held and then they were forcefully taking him out of office, I told my friend, I said to him, you know what? Because my friend was so happy that at the end, at long last, Mr. Jeme was leaving, and I said to my friend, you know what? You guys gonna regret it this within 3-4 years. I told my friend, and he was like, why? Why are you saying that? I said, you know what? I listened to your incoming president interview, and what he was saying is that I listened to him. What he was saying is that Britain, who colonized us as Gambians, the British who colonized us, when we asked for our independence, they give it to us for free. That was what he said. And then now, Mr. Jamel doesn't want to leave office. When he said the British gave Gambia independence for free, I was like, wow, this is something serious coming for Gambia. Because if somebody who is coming to be president of a country is telling you that your colonizers gave you independence for free, that means that person doesn't even know what he's talking about.
No, it's ignorance.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, my friend came back. Now, anytime we are having a conversation, my friend said to me, I wish Gambians would have listened to what you were saying at the time that Jammeh was in office.
Yeah.
Because anytime an African leader wants to stand up for the continent of Africa, these people will force him out.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, whoever they will impose on us will always be a disaster for us as children of Africa. And this is the reason why we are calling for a united Africa. My brother, all these things, they are aid, they are grant, they are whatever, it will never help us as African people. It is not for us. It is not for us. The question is, how much are they taking out of Africa? If we say USAID was some agency organization that is helping Gambia, the question is, how much are they taking out of Gambia yearly?
I'll give you an example. And then you can continue. In the Gambia, the European Union came to the government of Adama Barrow, something that President Jammeh refused before. They gave him 556,000 euros to get fishing licenses to our sea, something that European Union will be getting about 50 million to 100 million per annum, or by the time that 6-year contract ended. This is what they do. If they give you $10, whether you know it or not, whether it's measurable or not, they're going away with $100 million, or they're going with something else, $100. If they give you $10, they're going away with $100. And exactly what Nopero said earlier, what they give you also comes with strings attached to it. They have got other reasons why they're giving you that money.
They're not giving it to you.
Once you've accepted it, you've got no wiggle room. You have to bow down to them and accept what they're giving you the aid for.
And most of the time, they're not gonna even hide it from you, because they know they put you in power, they put you in office, and if you dare not, like, they will show you examples of what they did to others who refused to take that. Like you rightly mentioned, I listened to that interview of President Jammeh when he said that he doesn't understand why they are offering him 5% of royalties for the Gambian oil. He said, are you offering the same thing to those in Gulf countries? So if you and according to what he said they told him that why is it being difficult? Because in Africa it is only Angola that is getting 10% or 15%. Your colleagues, all of them are getting 5%. Why are you making it difficult? And then he said, well, if the oil is ours and then you have the technology and then we cannot share 50-50, then leave it. Future generations will come and they will have the technology to use the oil and then it will benefit them. That is a brilliant way of responding to a criminal.
Yeah.
But no.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And the same thing happened between Britain, Europe, and Iran decades ago when they offered Mossadegh about 5, 10, 15%. But at the same time, they were offering Saudi Arabia 50% of the for the 50% royalties. So Mossadegh said, no, it's not going to happen. In fact, that's what brought about the fall of Mossadegh. Exactly the same thing as President Jammeh said. Since he refused that 5%, they said they're going to change his regime. And for those 9 years, they kept on attacking him and attacking him and attacking him until eventually they manipulated the results and he left.
And they, not only did they manipulated it, but imagine within 24 hours, ECOWAS was ready to go to Gambia. ECOWAS was ready to send troops to Gambia, but the same ECOWAS cannot help fight Boko Haram in Nigeria.
Yeah, this is the problem, my brother. That's what we have, because ECOWAS is a French Western post in Africa. They're working against the interests of their own people, and you're right.
Yeah. So honestly speaking, all these things, my brother, that we're going through, USAID, whatever, until we, the children of Africa, can stand up and then elect leaders who have Africa at heart, that we can hold accountable. All these so-called these Western puppets who are nothing but misleaders, if we keep them in office, then our children will continue to perish in the Mediterranean Sea. What has USAID do to help Gambian youth, Ghanaian youth, whatever youth? What has they done to help them stop moving to Europe?
Yeah. In fact, the suspicion until Jammeh stood on the UN podium and told them how they were complicit or deliberately killing the African youth in the Mediterranean. Because I'll tell you first-hand knowledge now, first-hand knowledge, I'll not go in detail, but I'll tell you first-hand knowledge now, the Mediterranean Sea is the most policed sea on earth. There's no way a dinghy from Libya is going to be loaded with African migrants without Cyprus, Greece, Turkey, Italy, Malta, and other coast guards not knowing that there's a boat going from Libya to Italy. If they wanted to save the lives of African youth, they would have saved their lives at that point. President Jammeh stood at the UN and said, you've been quiet about the deaths of African youths in the Mediterranean Sea.
Genocide.
They are dying right in front of your eyes. And we saw videos of the Greek or Cypriot coast guards deliberately speeding towards these dinghies, waving, racing the waves so that they can so that they can flip them over and kill them in the Mediterranean Sea. President Jammeh stood at the UN and told them that they were doing that deliberately to kill the African child. But when Europe was broke in the 15th century, they came to Africa to get some sort of assistance.
I listened to that.
When Europe was in trouble in the First World War, they came and took our grandfathers to go and help them out. When Europe was in trouble in the Second World War, they came and took our grandfathers to go and help them out. But when we need, just what we need from Europe is not spoon feeding. We're just saying, trade with us fairly. If we give Saudi Arabia 50% for their oil, give Gambia 50% for their oil. If
what
you
is
pay Canada $200
for that, my king?
Yeah. If you give Canada $200 a kilo of their uranium, give Niger the same amount. Don't come to Africa and think we don't know what you're doing and you're extorting us and looting from us. That's what we want to stop. And that's why the USAID, I'm not saying they didn't do anything good, but if you look at their balance sheet, what they're giving us and what they're taking will be greater than that. You go and look at the list of media houses that were being paid by USAID.
Yeah.
And you know why? They make up stories before they go and get rid of a leader in another country. That's what I'm talking about here. Continue, Africa.
And that's what, and that's what the last time I was saying, like, we, the citizens of Africa, like, for lack of education, these people have misled us to go against our good leaders. And today, honestly, if like maybe sometimes I just ask myself, imagine like today, if we have like we still have Gaddafi, we still have like President Jammeh leading us. Imagine today and the likes of what is happening in the Sahel. If we still have this kind of leaders, imagine what Africa will be going.
Endless possibilities.
You can imagine. Sometimes I think about that, and I'm like, you see, it is about time we stand up as children of Africa and protect leaders who have Africa at heart. Because
Absolutely.
because we cannot always allow them to take away our bears and give us puppets
Yeah.
whom they know they can control, and the only thing that they will be giving them is royalties, and those royalties are most of the time will even go back to Europe. So when they are coming to take your oil and they are giving you 5% royalties, at the end of the day, those politicians, puppet politicians, they're only going to use it and buy houses in Europe and send their children to school in Europe. So that money, 5% that they are giving you, they know that it is not going to benefit your country. Because at the end of the day, that is what the politicians are going to use. The puppet politicians I'm talking about, that is what they're going to use for their own luxurious way of living.
Yeah, but look at Nigeria after 60, 70 years of having oil. Nigeria is not better than Gambia.
Because they don't have oil.
Yeah.
Do you understand?
So,
because they don't have oil. That oil does not belong to them.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
This is
And
the problem.
exactly what President Jammeh was. I listened to that interview and I was like, wow, this president, they're going to get him out. That was exactly what he was saying. If we if we doesn't have the technology, then leave it. Because at the end of the day, it's going to end up to be like a curse. Just as it is a curse in Nigeria. Just as our minerals is mostly a curse to us. If we cannot use it, leave it. Future generations that we are going to educate, those future generations will have the technical know-how, and they will make good use of those resources for the collective good of all of us. But you cannot say that if you are an African leader, they